Your performance and technique are an integral part of your guitar tone. That's the secret that I'm sharing today. I apologize for the annoying video title, but I gave away the answer in the thumbnail, so you didn't really have to click on it unless you wanted to hear an explanation. I also started the video with the answer, so click off now if you feel like it. I'm calling it a secret because it seems like internet people are actively hostile toward the concept, but ignoring it costs people money and causes frustration, and I'd like to help some people out in ways that plugins and gear have been failing them. I'm not trying to revive the age-old "the tone is in the hands" debate. You can put your pitchforks away. We're all adults here. We know that reality rarely falls into a simple black and white or either-or sort of situation. This is the same sort of thing. It falls in a gray area. On one end of the spectrum, some people will argue that great technique can make any gear sound good. That's an extreme point of view, and I disagree with it. If you use the wrong gear or the wrong settings, a great performance can be utterly ruined. On the other end of the spectrum, people will argue that tone is something that is completely separate from technique, and the two things shouldn't be confused or paired together. This is also an extreme point of view, and I disagree with that one as well. I prefer to think of tone and technique as being two pieces of the same thing, like space-time. They're woven together like a fabric. You run into problems when you try to separate the two. Yes, even with high-gain metal tones, this stuff matters a lot. I'd argue that guitar tone doesn't exist without something to set it in motion, and that thing is the performance. You can't hear a note that hasn't been played. You need to pluck or strum the strings, and how you do so can have a pretty significant impact on your tone. Your left-hand technique is important as well. Your left hand can sabotage the efforts of your right hand and vice versa. You may think that this is all just semantics, but go ahead and try to show me a guitar tone without a performance. I'll wait. Just kidding, no I won't. Nobody is interested in hearing a guitar make sounds without a person playing it, because a guitar is an instrument for making music. Some people may say that I'm using the wrong terminology, that what I'm talking about here is guitar sound and not guitar tone. Okay, who's getting into semantics now? I've been helping independent artists improve their recordings for more than 15 years, and I can assure you that when a guitarist asks me to help them achieve a particular type of tone, they're not simply talking about brightness or darkness or saturation or EQ curve. They're also referring to clarity, power, and tightness, which come primarily from your performance, not your gear choices or settings. Producers pull great tones from guitarists not by simply turning knobs and positioning microphones, but by coaching performances and providing quality control during the recording process. You can't ignore technique. Unless you want to keep struggling and wasting money, then by all means. So now that we've established that guitar tone is a fabric that includes performance quality, we can explain why I'm calling it a secret. You can't sell this integral part of guitar tone. It requires practice and hard work, attention to detail. You can't wait for Black Friday and download the latest trendy plugin that the internet is buzzing about and have all of your problems solved overnight. In fact, I'd argue that it goes against gear companies' best interests to talk about this topic a whole lot. What about editing? What about it? Do you mean tightening things up for super technical music that requires machine-like tightness, or trying to bring half-assed performances up to a passable grade? You can try to edit your guitars to make them tighter, but that generally only corrects timing issues or minor tuning issues in extreme cases. Editing can also ruin a performance, so it should only be used as a last resort, like if somebody is allergic to practicing. Editing does not negate the importance of technique. There just isn't a reality in which technique isn't important. Even if you're aiming for a loose performance that isn't super tight or technical, how you play what you play is an essential part of the overall sound of a production. If you're aiming for a loose performance, an overly tight and technical technique could ruin the vibe. It's not about technical perfection, but about nailing the right vibe for the music. For example, my biggest influence as a guitarist is probably Dino Cazares from Fear Factory. I want my guitars to sound like a human mimicking a machine. If I try to play something that requires a looser, more nonchalant sort of technique, it trips me up. I can't play like that without completely altering my approach. I'll never nail a Jimmy Page tone without altering my technique on a conscious level. It's just not going to happen. So it's established. Technique is an integral part of any guitar tone. But let's be honest, you already knew all of this, right? This really shouldn't come as a surprise. But how do we improve our tone through technique and performance? What does that even mean? Isn't tone a subjective thing? Yes, it is. And that's why I'm going to show you how to teach yourself how to find your own version of perfection in a recording setting. This will also translate to the stage if you're concerned about that. In my opinion, honing your technique is best done in a recording setting because it shortens the feedback loop. In this case, the feedback loop is a cycle between attempt, evaluate, adjust, repeat. The shorter you can make this loop, the faster you improve. Simply practicing without recording means you're dividing your attention between playing and evaluating. Furthermore, we're going to be using doubling as our benchmark. You're constantly trying to beat your best, and if you don't lay down a best, there is no objective benchmark to try to beat. So here's the process in a nutshell. I recommend using headphones for accuracy, but this is a matter of preference. I also recommend using a guitar tone that is as close as possible to your target tone, at least in the feel and saturation. Reamping with a different tone later can sometimes ruin the feel of a song.
Stop! This is important! Most critically, crucially important!
If we go into settings, we're going to go to recording. We want to make sure that we've got Create Take folder selected on the audio portion of the recording tab in settings. And if we go to recording project settings, we want to record our pre-roll. I just got 2 seconds. That's enough for what I'm doing. And basically what that's going to do is when we, if we're using this selection here, our little area that we're recording, when we hit the record button, it jumps back and it records that whole jump back thing. So what that does for us is it gives us this, we're not just cropping off. Like if we come in just, a few milliseconds early before the grid line, we're not going to lose that. We can grab that back with this pre-roll recording thing. So that's pretty crucial.
Step 1. Record your best take of a small section of the song, usually just a few bars. Don't try to be a hero. Send this take to the left channel in the mix. I do this by dragging audio clips from a dedicated record track to tracks that are already routed and panned. Step 2. Now double that take, but try to play it better. Even if you think you played a flawless take last time, beat it. This might mean really digging in and experimenting with how you hold your pick or mute strings or how you apply your palm mute. The devil is in the details here. Experiment. Step 3. Put that better take on the right side in the mix. Step 4. Listen to the pair of takes as a doubled set and see which one of them is better and why. Is the one that you thought was better actually better, or did it just feel better when you were recording it?
I think the left side was better, so I'm going to replace the right side.
Step 5. Now beat your best take and replace the weakest one with that one. Your previous best should now be second best. Step 6. Repeat step 5 again. Step 7. Repeat step 5 again. Step 8. Repeat step 5 again. Step 9. You get the picture. Do this until you have guitar tracks that sound so fucking good that you don't need to edit them. This isn't an overnight process. It'll take some practice. Tip 1. When listening back to a doubled pair of guitar tracks, listen for random deviations. If something that sounds like a flaw happens each and every time, make sure it's something that you actually want to get rid of and not part of your personality as a guitarist. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Now I'm hearing something on the left side.
The outliers that only seem to happen randomly and only on one side or the other are usually the flaws that you might want to consider cleaning up.
We're just going back and forth until we just can't hear any problems.
Tip 2. Listen for the way that both guitars seem to lock in and sing together when played in unison. This happens when two performances are truly locked in. This is the essence of your maximized performance. In most modern metal situations, this is what we're aiming for, that lock. Anything else that seems to pull your attention to one side or the other unintentionally is usually a mistake. Unintentional being the key word here.
Now I'm hearing something on the left side.
Tip 3. This is a somewhat subjective issue. For a tech death band, you're probably going to be aiming for near perfection between the two sides. Personally, I don't really like my guitars to be that tight. I prefer my own productions to sound like two separate human guitarists playing extremely tightly, but not so tight that it sounds like one guitar. But there are no rules. I'm just trying to show you how to find this stuff for yourself. There's some gray area in this. But what if we can't hear a difference in our takes and can't tell how one of them is supposed to be better than the other if neither one has mistakes? Or what if this recording method is too tedious for us? This is where loop recording comes in. Loop recording allows us to enter a flow state and have more fun tracking and then sort out the details later. Later on, while we're sorting out those details, we'll start to uncover what we should be listening for when we're recording our guitar tracks. But for now, just set up a loop for a section of the song and grab a shit ton of takes for that part. We want a lot of winners. We're not going to be comping these to remove mistakes. We're going to be selecting the absolute best version of each piece of the riff down to the individual notes if need be. We're going to comp all these takes into just absolutely perfect, flawless takes. If you're not familiar with comping, the basic premise is to grab a bunch of good takes, then choose the best parts of each to create a perfect composite take.
Normally I'd go more than 4, but we're just doing a quick demonstration.
Except in this case, we're not trying to make a perfect take on the left and a perfect take on the right. We're aiming for the best combination between the two performances at any given moment. Sometimes this means choosing parts of a take that may not seem like the best choice in isolation, but pairs so well with the other side that the two performances become more than the sum of their parts. Furthermore, this isn't about making things technically perfect unless that's your goal. Personally, I don't worry about the grid so much as I do the relation to the other instruments. Sometimes a riff will sound better if the notes are slightly lagging or slightly rushed, and this can change over the course of a song. But that's another topic. Let me know if you're interested in that topic, and I'll make another video for that specifically in the future. Some of you watching are going to get a little bit annoyed right now. Something about cheating or phoning things in. What's funny is that usually in my experience, the musicians who want to try to be a hero in the studio and nail their parts all in one take end up being the ones that need the most help in the editing stage. But I digress. This isn't about cheating. This is an educational exercise.
Cool.
There are two main things that you're going to want to listen for when you're comping doubled guitars. 1, note quality on a granular level, and 2, interaction between the left and right guitars. So on the granular level, you're looking at attitude, tuning, timing, and clarity in that order. And in the interaction between the left and right guitars, you're going to be listening for tuning, tightness, and symmetry in that order. These two things are probably just two sides of the same coin. When you're choosing part pairs for your comp, trying out different combinations for different riff events or motifs, you'll notice that sometimes a pair of tracks just seems to sing together. More often than not, that's exactly what we're looking for. You want your doubles to sing like this all the time. If you do this comping thing for a while, two things will happen. 1, you'll get sick of comping because it's tedious and boring, which will make you not want to do it, which will lead to 2, naturally learning what to listen for in your guitar takes and being able to record comp quality takes without comping. So this is like a temporary thing. You won't have to do it forever. That's what I meant about it being an educational exercise. But it's still going to take a lot of work. That's why people keep making videos about gear that you need to buy or showing you weird mixing tricks that have far less of an impact on your tone than technique does. They're telling you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear. Some of you may have worked with a producer before and suddenly felt like you had a ton of homework to do. Like nothing you played was good enough all of a sudden, even though you felt like you were nailing things live for months. This just means that the producer was hearing things in a different way, and the comping thing will help you uncover that ability naturally and much, much faster than if you were just practicing in a traditional fashion. You may be thinking that this technique only has to do with recording and that it won't help you in live situations on stage. This approach to improving your technique will improve your tone and playing in every setting because it's teaching you how to listen for details. This absolutely will help you on stage. If you have another guitarist in your band, make sure you both develop this ear for detail and practice doubling each other's performances. By sharing recordings back and forth and practicing locking in with each other, you'll go from sounding like a local band to sounding like a well-honed, tour-ready professional band that'll stand out from all of the other local bands on the bill just because you're so much tighter than everyone else. I'm sorry that this is going to require work, but it's fun work. You're playing guitar rather than watching more and more YouTube videos that promise instant results but fail to deliver. This is the secret to great metal guitar tone: work ethic and attention to detail. The gear part is easy these days, assuming that you've unlocked this technique thing. It's true, tone isn't purely in the hands, but good tone and good technique are woven together like a fabric. They're part of the same cloth. If you put all of your focus on the gear side and try to separate your performance and your human touch from your tone, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. By recording your guitar tracks in this iterative style, you'll learn to hear your mix like a producer. Think of the money that'll save you. Gee willikers. So I used Logic for this video, but it doesn't matter. You can do this in any modern DAW, even Pro Tools. Even Pro Tools can do this. If you'd like to see how to do this in a different DAW other than Logic, let me know. I can show this in Cubase, Reaper, and Studio One as well. I'm not touching Pro Tools. No more of that. I'm done with Pro Tools. Sorry. But if Pro Tools is your thing, chances are you already know about this, and you didn't make it this far into the video because I can't tell you anything. You're a Pro Tools guy, whatever.
Who cares?
Maybe I should future-proof this video by pretending that a thumbnail is floating like right in front of my face. Let's put it like right here. Boom. And then we'll put something important or something, or maybe less. Maybe it's not super important, but it might be useful for somebody. And then later on in the future, I could overlay a thumbnail of a playlist that might exist in that future. Whoa. Click stuff if you want, or don't, whatever.
Who cares?